The Silver Wraith was the first post-war Rolls-Royce. It was made from 1946 to 1958 as only a chassis at Rolls-Royce's former Merlin engine plant, their Crewe factory. Alongside the shorter Bentley Mark VI, the Bentley II was available as a chassis for coach builders, but also for the first time could be bought with a Rolls-Royce-built standard steel body. It was announced by Rolls-Royce in April 1946 as the 25/30ths of a horsepower replacement for the 1939 Wraith in what had been the 20 horsepower and 20/25ths of a horsepower market sector, that is to say Rolls-Royce's smaller car. The size was chosen to be in keeping with the mood of post-war austerity. Even very limited production of the chassis of the larger car, the Phantom, was not resumed until 1950 and then, officially, only for heads of state. Improvements announced were chromium-plated cylinder bores for the engine, a new more rigid chassis frame to go with new independent front suspension and a new synchromesh gearbox. Chassis lubrication was now centralized. Engine. The straight six-cylinder post-war engine, which had been briefly made for the aborted by war Bentley Mark V, replaced conventional overhead valve gear with an F-head configuration of overhead inlet valves and side exhaust valves and reshaped combustion chambers. There were new main and big end bearings and a more efficient drive to the timing gear. To this pre-war mix, Rolls-Royce added chromed bores. Initially, this engine retained the Mark V's capacity of 4,257 cc, increased from 1951 to 4,566 cc in 1955, after the introduction of the Silver Cloud, to 4,887 cc for the remaining Silver Wraiths chassis. The first cars had an entirely new 127-inch wheelbase chassis which differed considerably from that of the pre-war Wraith and was much nearer rigid. It matched the new Bentley chassis but with an extra 7-inch section added to the center. The new chassis had coil-sprung independent front suspension, which required a very rigid chassis to function properly, and at the rear conventional semi-elliptic springs and live axle. The braking system was a hybrid hydro-mechanical system with hydraulic front brakes and mechanical rears using the mechanical servo similar to that of the pre-war cars. The last short-wheelbase cars were delivered in November 1953. The long, 133-inch, wheelbase chassis was announced in 1951 and the first delivered in January 1952. 639 were made by the time of the last deliveries in October 1958. This was not quite the last Rolls-Royce model to be supplied as a chassis only, ready for a wide variety of bespoke coachwork designed and made by a rapidly declining number of specialist coach builders. Most of the bodies selected used formal limousine designs. Automatic transmission. Initially only a 4-speed manual gearbox was offered, but this was supplemented by General Motors' Hydromatic automatic option from 1952. Silver Dawn. From 1949 until 1955, customers wishing to buy the Rolls-Royce car fitted with the much smaller standard steel body could purchase Rolls-Royce's Silver Dawn. It was almost identical to Rolls-Royce's Bentley standard steel saloon that had been available alongside the Silver Wraith since July 1946. The Silver Wraith chassis was 7 inches longer. Official uses: Irish Presidential State Car 1947 present, Brazilian Presidential Ceremonial State Car 1952, Royal Dutch State Limousine 1958, Royal Danish Ceremonial Car Storkrone 1958, Royal Greek Ceremonial Car 1959. Film appearances. Witness for the prosecution, indiscreet. Victim, From Russia with Love, The Love Bug, The Return of the Pink Panther, Arthur, With Nail and I, Batman, Batman Returns, James Dean, The Scapegoat, Spectre, Gallery of State Cars.